Okay, so swag after that failed union attempt, the campus, as far as politics go, as far as unionizing on the campus goes, it slows down quite a bit. Swag just basically becomes basically a student group for the IWW to use, essentially, for us to have workshops in order for us to get a certain amount of funding from APERG. And then what ends up happening is SCIU, the Justice for Janitors campaign, which we have a lot of issues with too, but at this point in the game, a lot of us end up working on this campaign, end up unionizing the janitors on campus. This ends up revigorating what was swag, is used as a solidarity method to fight for union rights for janitors. So that happens. Still, swag isn't quite there. It isn't actually until Occupy, to be honest with you. It isn't until Occupy Edmonton attempts to move onto campus that the students end up starting to fight again against tuition cuts. And they don't want anything to do with Occupy Edmonton. They want their own thing. And they find swag, and so swag is restarted. And this is an interesting point right now, because what has happened with that organization is it's turning into the potential for something very similar to class. And I say that because now it's moved off of not only the U of A campus, but onto the Grant MacEwan campus and onto the NAIT campus. And it's got a few different sections of it. It has its general assemblies, which are they're still working it out, but it's basically like a Rusty's Rules, Robert's Rules of Order and consensus-based organizing model. It's very out in the open. And what we also have is we also have our organizing drive that we're building in order to refight for a lot of these things that we lost earlier on with the teachers' assistants. So at that point, the Quebec student strike also became very interesting to a lot of people in Alberta. Outside of what was going on, it was like, here you had people standing up and fighting for something that's happening to them, whereas in Alberta, we have seen just a constant attack and a constant cutback on education funding, along with what I was talking about earlier, the fact that our government has been attacking essential services within our province. So it's a very exciting time for Albertans. It's a very exciting time for students to be able to fight for that. And that is the situation that I'm going back to when I go back. That is the campaign that I'll probably be focusing on quite a bit as well. And so yeah, there we are with that, with the students, and with construction. We are rebuilding again, it looks like, and yeah, and we have a few union campaigns going on. The IWW continues to grow within Alberta consistently. It's one of the few bastions, it feels like, in Canada where there's some like massive growth through like industrial organizing. And it's kind of where we're really trying to build up that model again, so to speak. And some of that is definitely using a seesaw model that is for some people that know that. That's yeah, it's essentially it's a Seattle Solidarity Network, where it's a belief. We take a look at what we can gain from something and how much pressure we need to gain that, and we build up our campaigns a lot through there. And yeah, so that's kind of what we're doing at this point in time. I think that's a pretty brief overview, and I might open it up to questions now, because I think we'll get a lot more out of it.
I don't know that the IWW as such addresses the question. But last week, the federal government announced they were sending federal forces to defend the tar sands against the terrorists.
Yeah.
And I know at least one of your militants there seems to be a terrorist.
That's true. Well, yeah. I mean, does the IWW address the tar sands issue? I mean, we address it in the sense that we want to see the tar sands. I think most people in Alberta want to see the tar sands eventually disappear, but we want to see it disappear under workers' control. You know, that's the. But I mean that is the huge difference, and that actually you might be able to argue that's the biggest difference between us and a lot of environmental groups, where they say immediately let's end it through outside forces, and we say, well, you know, that's a nice dream. But if you really want to fight and you really want to make a difference in this province when it comes to the environment, when it comes to labor and everything else, you're going to have to take an approach like Judy Berry did with the redwoods in California, where you had a joint solidarity with workers, communities, and environmental groups. And if you don't have that, then good luck. You're not really going to go anywhere outside of it. What happened in California was the logging of the redwoods. And
can I ask?
Yeah.
C'est quoi, il y a de glace?
Cool.
Yeah. And at the time, there were campaigns like through Earth First and stuff, and they start off with spiking trees and these sorts of things. But the thing is, what they found with that is, well, I mean, what would happen when you spike a tree? If somebody hits it with a chainsaw, they could die, or they lose an arm or something like that, and you just injure the worker that's just doing that work because they have to in order to make ends meet for their family. And unfortunately, with a province like Alberta that has gutted its infrastructure in the focus of oil, in the focus of production, in the focus of this idea of a banana republic, so to speak, for the oil companies, is that almost everybody works in one way or another through the oil patch. Whether you're doing construction, whether you're working as an NGO, whether you're directly working or indirectly working there. And so to fight that, you need to find some place where you have Albertans on your side. And I feel, and this is also going back to the wildcat strikes, you do have people who are pissed off with the way that things exist. They're pissed off with companies, they're pissed off with the Alberta government. I mean, these elections, even though out here they're seen as like, well, you're choosing between one right-wing asshole and another, which is very true.
It's a catch-22.
It is a catch-22, which is why the Wild Rose didn't get in. But I mean, that is a result of people who see the corruption and the cronyism of one government, but don't have an idea of where else to go, so they go towards this other group because of the Alberta populism that they present. And so what you need to do is you need to convince these people that your interests are their interests, or their interests are your interests. You know, and generally a lot of things that Greenpeace does ends up pissing off a lot of workers.
Yeah.
And it is true that our cancer rates are high. It is true that there are reserves and communities who can't eat their fish anymore, can't hunt the moose anymore because of all the poisons in it, are dying basically off of the tar sands. And that is understandable, and that is fucked up. And we gotta make that clear to Alberta workers. But the thing is, a lot of people working in the tar sands also live in those communities and also are affected by that. So you need to build the links, and you need to build the alternatives.
I think David wants to ask a question, but just before he does, Judy, I just want to tell what happened to Judy Berry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think you need to know what happened to Judy Berry in California.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
She was IWW, huh?
Yeah, she was. She was IWW and Earth First, and yeah, sorry, I'm getting off track there to the Judy Berry point. So you had all these people spiking trees, right? And she answered that.
Spiking trees, you mean?
Des clous dans l'arbre.
So whenever they.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Can you say that on camera what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. A spiking tree is you put a metal nail, a long thing into a tree, a spike, yeah.
Spike in the railway, c'est ça qui tient les rails.
Yeah, and you stick it in the tree, and when somebody goes in and they hit it with their chainsaw, it splits the chain, it splits the edge of the chainsaw, so the chain comes out back at you.
It can also hurt people at the mile.
Yeah, exactly. So
At a
it's
mile around?
Yeah.
Non, je veux dire dans le moulin
Oh,
à bois.
in the mile. Okay.
And the what?
In the mill.
On the
Mill.
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 Okay.
Yeah, going through the mill.
Okay.
Yeah, and they said no more spiking trees. What we need to do is we need to organize with workers, see what their conditions are, see what their issues are, and find common ground with the issues that they have and the issues that we have. And that's actually why their campaign was so successful. I mean, they even were able to get redwoods protected. With that said, the FBI also planted a bomb in Judy Berry's car and ended up murdering her partner as a result of that, and she was scarred for life.
I think she eventually actually died also from the wounds.
Yeah, in a
the
sense.
FBI did
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When?
it's not proven by law,
No, but-
but they won't let an independent laboratory identify the DNA on the remains of the bomb. So it's an ongoing issue that is about to outcome next year.
that? Next
Yeah,
year?
exactly.
Yeah, next year. Yeah.
Everybody knows what happened, though. It just.
Because
It
everybody
is-
knows, but it's not proven yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they won't let it.
Je te donnerai un dossier si tu veux.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
When
Oh,
was
yeah.
that?
That was in the 90s, I believe. Was that in the 90s or was that in the...
I don't
maybe you're
remember.
right. Yeah, maybe it was.
I think it was
there.
1991 if I remember, but I could be wrong.
You know, so, and without question, I mean, that is also what we'll be dealing with in Alberta. I mean, the issue is production. As Richard said, I also have friends who are involved actively in the anti-tar sands campaign. It is a good campaign to be fighting for. It's just I think the methodology is wrong. But you know, the government at all costs and companies at all costs will fight for production, will fight for profits. So whether that means using unions to shut down wildcats and blackballing workers, or whether that means to bringing an anti-terror unit into Alberta for First Nations groups who will be setting up blockades potentially for the pipeline, or paying off chiefs in other reserve areas, you know, they'll do it because at the end of the day, their issue is the profit motive. So, you know, that is the reality.
Vas-y.
Ben, c'est juste, tu le traduiras. C'est
Ok.
juste là-dessus aussi au Québec.
I'm
ils
gonna
ont fait-
translate. Vas-y par 3 lignes, mettons.
Ils ont ici l'association pétrolière ou gazière, je ne suis pas responsable de ça. En tout cas, le gouvernement a fait une espèce de campagne avec les représentants des syndicats, des charpentiers, de l'international, puis des pipe fitters pour faire la promotion là, de l'emploi que ça crée, puis toute cette merde-là dans évidemment.
Okay, here in Quebec, actually, they also the gas and oil institutions. They made a publicity campaign using carpenters and pipe fitters of the international unions to make the promotion
In all the paper here.
Yeah, of course.
in the papers. Et si je peux, and if I can add, right now on French and English television,
Yeah.
on CBC, CTV, whatever, Radio-Canada, you have two local presidents of unions that are going to say, you know, les sables bitumineux, the tar sands. So that's so great, you know, where it's fantastic for the economy. And as unionists, we support this. And that message passes very often.
Yeah.
And
the rep of the carpenter and the pipe fitter.
of course, yeah.
International.
And the pipe fitters and the carpenters, those unions are some of the biggest betrayers of the working class at the same time as well in Alberta. And of course it's good for them. Of course it's good for them because they make money off of it too. You know? And I mean, we make money off of it working it. But we also get the cancer from it when we work it. And at the end, our children end up getting the cancer from the outcome of putting these chemicals into the water, putting these chemicals into the earth. You know, the tar sands, you go into the tar sands, it's the moon. Everything's dead. Most of the reclamation sites have failed. Within 2 years they fail because it is not the same. You cannot recreate wetlands. recreate like what was there. It's not
Work
possible.
is good, but not at any cost.
Yeah, and the cost is
Of
basically
life.
the life and the planet. We see, the
And the
human.
balance in,
Yeah.
in the land in Alberta. It's just
Yeah.
Also, I think
take out a wetland.
just to get 345 imperial gallons of oil,
Yeah.
to make 3, you need
Imperial gallons.
not U.S. gallons.
Ah, okay.
Il y a une différence.
I didn't know.
The imperial gallon is bigger
Yeah.
than the American gallon. To make 3, it takes 2.
Yeah.
Pour faire 3,45 gallons impérial, ça prend 2 gallons. 2 barils de 45 gallons pour en produire 3. Donc, écologiquement, ça n'a aucun sens.
You know what? And yeah, we should talk about water because water is a huge issue in Alberta. We're not looking at it right now because our government has put a gag order on everything every study that talks about our water table in these areas has a gag order on it.
A gag, like a
Yeah,
gag?
like a gag,
Okay.
Interdit
Yeah.
de publication.
Un baillon, dans le fond.
Okay.
yeah.
That's how you call it.
Gag order.
So we
It's
don't
a
really
gag.
know.
It's a gag. It's like
Outside of what people find out, we don't really know what's going on. We know that, for example, in the Athabasca River, the ice shields that go in and feed the Athabasca River because of global warming are not reproducing themselves quicker than they're shrinking. We also know that the Athabasca River is being polluted very downstream of the tar sands. The water is basically poison. You cannot use that water. That's where we're having the issues with the fish. That's where you're having issues with moose and all the rest, is because of all the stuff leaching into the water. We also see the fact that now, companies are trying to recycle the water because it's cheaper for them potentially to recycle the water that they have in these tailings ponds. The thing is, when I say ponds, these things aren't ponds, these things are massive lakes.
Pond, c'est étang.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
a pond is still water, and lake
Yeah.
kind of flows out. Is that the
No.
difference?
No,
It's just a larger,
Okay.
huge body of
huge,
water.
yeah.
To the point in which we have ships that are icebreakers on them in the wintertime. These
Okay,
things
that's
are
not a
big.
pond.
No, that's not a pond. It's not at
Ouais,
this
mais
point.
ce qu'il vient de dire, c'est que
C'est tellement des gros bassins d'eau
Ouais,
qu'il y a des
c'est des
icebreakers
bassins,
qui viennent casser la glace dessus. Là, c'est pas un étang.
And they're right
Des
up.
petits trous d'eau.
No worries. And they're right up against land. We really don't know what the effects of them are. We don't know how long they're gonna be able to hold out these things. And at the same time, too, we have no plan in storage of what are you going to deal with all this poison now that we've created. We don't know what's going on underground and how much
How
they're
it's
seeping
leaking
into
in the-
everything. So we're
And-
going to see the effects.
un water table, évidemment, c'est table d'eau, ça veut dire la
Ce qui est la nappe phréatique.
ouais.
I might also add that this year the University of Alberta gave an award to the president of Nestle for water conservation as well. And that was also at a time when Nestle is looking to privatize our water, to bottle the water. And they also use this as an argument for a solution to deal with water pollutants as well. So, if you have any idea of where Nestle is at on the labor issue and also on issues of water in Southeast Asia and in Northern Africa and whatnot, you know that this is not an answer.
Iced tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
With a kick.
with a kick. Yeah, with a kick. So people are starting to wake up more and more in Alberta to these things. People know that the government is lying to them, And I think this is also another reason why they're sending anti-terror units to Alberta, is because they don't know what sort of opposition they're going to have.
They're scared.
And I think they are a bit scared. There is international opposition building towards the tar sands, and they're really fighting.
There already, I think.
It is.
In Europe.
Oh yeah, in Europe, but and in the United States too, against the pipeline. But of course, the Democrats and the Republicans have all I think they pretty much all agreed on the pipeline there. There's one thing they can agree on in that country, it's on the pipeline. So.
I have a last question for me.
Yes.
Right now in Quebec, of course, the struggle is like the postal workers and the machinists from Avios that spoke at the same conference with me from class. They all said the student struggle is the locomotive, because if the students lose the strike, next negotiation, the postal workers, the machinists, the bagagistes of Air Canada, etc., we're going to eat our shorts.
Right.
On va manger nos bobettes.
Yeah,
That's what they
absolutely.
said.
Can you
Okay?
say eat your shorts in English?
Oh, mange tes bobettes.
Mange tes bobettes. But clean though. But there's something happening across Canada.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the level of the struggle, and also Law 78, we know about it, but we're not doing much about it, is C-38 with Harper in Ottawa, that raises the pension age to each human being is going to have to work 2 more years of his life before resting his old bones. It's not nothing. Attacking again unemployed workers, especially seasonal, regional unemployed workers once again. Even though we know even now only 41% of the unemployed actually receive unemployment insurance when they lose their job, and it's insurance we pay too. That's a very bad insurance company there. So obviously, in the neighborhood assemblies, we're going to try and put forward, and maybe Montreal IWW could put that forward too, some subcommittees to work on C-38, but they're starting the votes right now. They're starting the votes right now.
Isn't it too late for this one?
Well, even when a law is passed, you can
It's
still
not too late,
struggle.
and it shouldn't be.
You know,
No, I know.
Law 78,
I'm
Law
so
78 is
discouraged over that C-38.
78 is voted, but we're struggling against it.
There's more to it than
So
that, too.
yeah,
No, it's 400 pages of.
is there any signs of life, not just in Alberta, but from you coming from English Canada? Is there any sign of life coming out of the unions on C-38?
Oh, well, yeah, of course that is something that unions definitely talk about.
Talk.
Yeah. But I mean, let's
There's
be
been no
honest.
demonstrations, no
Yeah.
picket lines, no press
No.
conferences, no.
And I mean, there will be, for sure, you'll have the head of the Alberta Federation of Labor at some point, I'm sure, talking about it. You'll have some NDP candidates talking about it. You might even have a protest or two. But it really, I mean, even if you have that, that is not enough. In order...
There's no lines here
Yeah.
about like the fact that nobody inspects planes in Dorval Airport right
No,
now.
that's it.
Nobody's making a line about it.
Yeah.
Nobody's making a line in Winnipeg. Nobody's making a line in Edmonton or Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's up to us to do it.
I
So
agree.
let's do it.
No, it's true. It's true. That is just it, right? Like, if the politicians don't eat, then I'm pretty sure we'll all be eating pretty good. That's the truth. That's until like, if the ruling classes don't feel pain, then we never get any answers. It doesn't matter what we say, but they actually have to feel it. They have to feel the hurt. It's there's
It
even
doesn't bother them. They're not going to do anything about it.
no, it's okay. I was looking the other day at the Spanish miners, to be honest, and they had this thing on this banner, and it basically said, if our children go hungry, your children will see blood.
That's it.
And I'm sorry, that is a class reality, because a lot of people are dying because of the capitalist system. It's a violent system. The state is a violent state, and you know, in order to fight that, in order to change that system, we're basically stuck with the only option of fighting back at those who oppress us by any means possible, in my opinion. But I would say focusing on specifically organizing within our neighborhoods, with those with neighborhood assemblies, organizing in our workplaces with shop floor assemblies and shop floor committees. But you know, they'll send in the police. We see that here. You know, they arm themselves as much as they can get away with. So the second they're allowed to shoot people on the street, they will. I think that's pretty obvious. And I mean, what else can you expect? What else can you expect for something that continually oppresses you? They're willing to drop bombs somewhere else. You know, it's just a matter of time before they do the same to you, in my opinion. So we have no other option but to fight.
It's called the home front.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Qu'est-ce que vous dites qu'on passe à peut-être une discussion plus informelle?
What?
What do you say about we stop this now? Thank you a lot.
Thanks.
And pass to the informal part of the soirée.
Yeah, so much.
Go